Are you ready to become an escapreneur? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Bye Bye 9 to 5 podcast, designed by brilliant women, especially for brilliant women who want to create the life of their dreams by escaping the 9 to 5.
Welcome to Bye Bye 9 to 5 podcast, where we are helping women escape the 9 to 5 and enjoy the life that they really love by starting a business and being able to embrace their skills and abilities to really just get out there and live the lifestyle that they really want to live on their own terms. My guest today is Miss Hathaway, and Miss Hathaway McCaffrey. She is a mindset and business strategy coach. Welcome, Hathaway.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're so welcome. And so let me give you just a little bit of Miss Hathaway's background. She works with, you're going to absolutely love this because I'm so intrigued. I have questions for her. All right, so she works with entrepreneurial athletes. Get that, entrepreneurial athletes, to link their sports mindset and business mindset so they can consistently achieve on their next level in all areas of business and their lives. So she has a background in business development, fitness and nutrition. She's also a certified health and wellness and life coach and certified money mindset and business coach. And I will post all of the information in the links for her website. You can find her at hathawaywell.com. and on Instagram at hathawaywell. So I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. That was a mouthful.
It was, but it was all tough. And it's like, oh my gosh. So this is the first time, well, not the first time, this is the actual second time that I've seen a coach do this, where they combined the fitness aspects of your life with the business aspects of your life in a way that makes you even more powerful. And we're going to talk about that. But before we do,
absolutely,
I want you to give me a little bit of information, a little bit more information, so we can get to know you a little bit better about your journey that got you to this point.
Absolutely. Well, as you mentioned from my bio, I essentially was born an athlete. So I have a long history in sports and fitness, and then went into the corporate world in sales and business development. And when I decided to make that segue into having my own business and coaching, I initially started in the health and wellness and found that I was attracting a lot of clients that were also in their beginning stages with business that could utilize some help in that area. And really started to see that my success came when I took the drive that I had. I'm an avid long distance runner. The drive that I had to be that runner and the cyclist and all of those things, and really segue that into my business. And I had kind of taken for granted that being driven was enough, and it wasn't. It was really taking those steps to link and integrate those two mindsets, because we tend to keep things compartmentalized. And when I was able to link them together, that's when I was really able to more effortlessly find success in my business.
That is amazing. And I think when you and I spoke earlier, Hathaway, I mentioned the fact that with this other coach that I had met, where she was really stressing that a part of her program was she was actually challenging people to become more fitness minded and to integrate that into the coaching, in their coaching practice completely. And it was like, it just blew my mind away, because she would talk about just the what happens when your body is challenging itself from a fitness perspective, how that translates into the business perspective. And
Absolutely.
So I know you're going to tell me about that, but so Hathaway, have you previously worked like from a 9 to 5 to transition over to a coaching?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you do that?
The transition, I think the key thing I'm sure you say to everyone that you work with, it needs to be what feels right for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have clients that I talk to that keep that 9 to 5 going for a long time. So that is really the best advice I can give. It needs to make sense for you, your family, and where you are. And you don't want to be going into something scared. There's obviously apprehension and things like that, but that's not the right spot to be entering the business. So I did make that transition. So I was in my 9 to 5, you know, getting my coaching certifications and coaching clients, you know, when I could fit it in with my schedule. And then finally decided it was time for me to go all in.
Nice. Very nice. So it sounds like you had a really good plan. You strategized, you had a plan, you made the move.
Exactly.
You know, go ahead.
I was saying exactly.
Yeah. And I just want to stress the fact that that's normally what women who are out there listening should be looking to do when they're trying to transition through that. They want to have a plan and they want to strategize that well and make sure that you know, in life, it's kind of funny. You never know where exactly you're going to land, but you want to have some idea.
Correct. Yeah. I always talk about, you know, being clear on that goal, but being flexible on the approach. So, you know, you may know what you want to have. It might shift a little bit, but it's true. And I mean, one of the best coaches out there, Tony Robbins, talks about the fact that you need to have a clear exit strategy. And part of that too plays into the mindset of it allows you to take a deep breath. It allows you to not feel forced. You know, it helps manage that overwhelm of saying, I am comfortable making this transition when. And it looks different for everyone. Sometimes it's a straight revenue number. Sometimes, you know, it's opportunity and clients. So it's just really sitting down and being very honest with what looks right for you to make that transition. Absolutely.
Very well said. One of the things you mentioned was the fact that the mindset plays a huge part in that, you know, and so kind of take us through what has kind of compelled you to be, to work with people on their mindset and business strategies.
Absolutely. Well, when and it started in my sports background, I had, you know, I'm very driven and very successful, but I realized a lot of that came from a fear of failure, not from a desire to be successful. So when I saw what happened for me, when I upgraded that, because when you're motivated from that fear of failure, even if I accomplished something, it was a relief that I didn't fail, not a sense of achievement. So that cuts into your motivation. So when I realized essentially I was running someone else's race, you know, I was so caught up in what I should be doing, what came next and all of those things. And it was a constricted way I was approaching things. So when I took a step back and really said, okay, what do you want? What do you want this business to look like? What comes next? And really not only ask myself those hard questions, but owned the answers to them. And then figured out, okay, now what comes next from there? Because that was a huge shift for me. And I had done it for so long, not even realizing that I wanted to be successful. And that fear of failure got larger than my desire to achieve these great things I had in front of me. So it was really, you know, it was shifting that and just being okay with exactly where I was and where I wanted to go and knowing that it was my unique journey. It's really easy for all of us with the best of intentions to kind of get caught up in someone else's story.
Yes.
But it's got to be yours, because particularly with us as entrepreneurs, your real key to success is you.
Right.
And lots of people are afraid to show that and embrace that, but that's the key. And it's interesting. It's the most basic key, yet we often overlook it or hide it or feel like we need to, you know, dial back. And when you embrace it, things become, I always talk about things being effortless, and that doesn't mean they're easy. It's just, they come more natural because they're clearly aligned with your intentions.
You know, you made so many awesome points in there. Oh my gosh. But, that, and I have identified that things being effortless, I always say, why does everything have to be so hard? But it's not that. It's things being effortless is what feels most natural.
Yes.
And that's what's, that definitely. I love that. Okay. So tell me, how did you decide that you were going to merge those two different aspects, fitness and business, but they're really not so different. But how did you decide that you were just going to merge those?
You know, it didn't necessarily start out that way. And that would be one thing in starting my business. It was what I wanted to do, and I resisted it because I kind of hadn't seen it done before. I let that like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if people are going to understand it. And I fell into that trap that a lot of us do. I was afraid to create a niche because I thought I would limit my client base, when the reverse happened. Because I was trying to serve everyone, my message was very vague. So I wasn't reaching my ideal client. I was trying to talk to everyone, and I was in turn not reaching anyone. So that was really me, you know, looking at the clients that I was attracting and what really lit me up in working with people, you know, what I really got. And part of that also too was embracing what was me. It was my experience, you know, what motivates me to get out of bed when it's still dark and put in the miles, and how do I parlay that into success in business and seeing a project through. So it was really embracing what makes me unique and realizing there is need for any niche you can create out there. There's need, particularly since we do live in this world where you can work with clients anywhere in the world, you know, so it's just being really clear on what you do. So it was really for me seeing the need, understanding how I could serve that need, and getting very clear, you know, on who my ideal clients are, and combining my passions.
Wow. That's amazing, because, and Hathaway, you just hit on so many nuggets there. And I do hope that women are really, really listening, because I mean, she just gave you some great insight into just looking at your ideal client. And that's, you know, Hathaway, I went through the same process too. I'm like, no, but I'm going to exclude somebody. But what you're really doing is you're honing into that sweet spot that really works well for you. And you actually serve so much more people that way.
Absolutely. And then also remembering, just because you have a niche, that doesn't mean that you won't attract and can't work with people that are outside of that niche.
Right.
So if someone approaches you and they're not necessarily textbook who your ideal client is, if you have that conversation and it seems like a strong fit, go for that. So I think some people try to be too rigid with it as well.
Yes. I agree with you on that. So when you're working with people on their mindset, what do you feel has been like one of the biggest hurdles for people to overcome with regards to their mindset?
Typically, particularly with women, they're waiting for permission or to feel like they're ready.
Yeah.
And so they look at the other people in the industry, the people they see on the internet that are doing it. And in their mind, they're somehow better, more accomplished, better educated, whatever that is. So we start that cycle of self-doubt. And all it does is, you know, it gets to the overthinking, and it just stops you from moving forward. So I would really say the biggest thing with mindset is having people own what they want and knowing that they can do it, because it's, you have to, whatever it is, you have to believe it.
Yes.
You know, whether you're using, you know, affirmations, action steps, whatever it is that resonates with you, if there's nothing behind it, if there's no, I can say, you know, I'm X, Y, and Z. If I don't believe those things are possible, I might as well not say it, because it's going to fall flat. So it's just with people really getting them. And it's interesting, we don't want to do it, to really do a hard self-audit. What do you want? And be okay with that. It's okay to want 6 figures. It's okay to not want 6 figures. You know, any of those things. And it's interesting, again, that I reference, but I bring it up again because I see it again and again, and I've done it, of you're running someone else's race. You're trying to keep up with the Joneses, you know, any of those things. And it's, you know, there's a term that's very popular out there right now, hustle. It doesn't resonate with me. I don't want to, you know, I'm not looking to hustle. I work hard. I'm clear on my intentions, and I love it. You know, so it's really getting that. Hustle to me seems like it's constantly fighting for more, you know, and you're pushing and pushing and pushing. And part of what I really emphasize with my clients as well, that I think we mentioned when we spoke first, is it's not only being successful, but having sustained success. So it's not putting in, you know, those all-nighters to get that project done so you can get those clients, but then say, now for a week, I need to recoup from what I just did.
Right. It's good balance, being sustainable. Yes, absolutely. I agree. And that's interesting that you say that about hustle, because just the word in itself does indicate that you are just really burning yourself out, because you are always hustling. You know,
it kind of like gets my heart rate up. I mean, when I think of hustle, I think of like a basketball drill back in the day. And like, that's something completely different, because hustle in its true sense, when it was with sports, was short sprints of energy. It wasn't meant to be sustainable. It's like you hustle and then you stop, you hustle and then you stop. So, you know, you kind of miss the fluidity with that. And I think with mindset, what's really important is with my clients, I always say, I meet you where you are. So I think what is a block for some people with mindset is they have this big picture that's fabulous. Big goals are great, but we need to look at that goal and then acknowledge where you are and bridge the gap. Because if we just have where you are and that big goal, if we don't anchor that goal, it's just floating out there. And it's so big and we're not quite sure how to get there. So when months pass and we're not getting there, then it just becomes, you know, the self-defeating talk starts, the self-doubt of maybe I can't do it at all. So I think that with mindset's been such a focus globally in recent years, which is great. But I think people sometimes remember where you're starting, because where you're starting is essential. Right. You can get to where you're going, but we've got to acknowledge where you're starting, because I think people get caught up in no one's making 6 figures in 6 days or all the flashy stuff, on the internet. So it's really knowing where you are. And when you acknowledge where you're starting to, then we can put the steps in place where you can breathe. And you're like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then it's like, okay, you can do that. Great. Then we're building, you get that momentum and you're building your confidence along the way because you're completing things instead of saying, okay, I had 2 clients this month. If your goal's 30 the next, I wish you the best of luck, but that's a big gap. We're going to have some really, let's look at, is that realistic with the time you're willing to devote? So I think that is a big part with mindset as well. People think if I just affirm this huge goal, it's going to come to fruition, but we've got to anchor it. We've got to, put those steps in place to make it tangible.
I so agree with that. And with all the information that people read in the media and the emails they get in their inbox about, it's like, let me show you how to make $100,000 in 30 days. Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, it's just unbelievable. So I love that approach, Hathaway. It's just being able to keep people grounded and realistic and knowing that you got to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to go. And you got to do the work. Because I think a lot of times people think they don't have to do the work.
And people will come to me too. I want the answer. I don't have the answers. I'm going to provide you the support and accountability because they're not answers. There's no set answer. If there were one way to do it, we would all be millionaires. Everyone would just find the solution and do it if that's what you want to be. But I really think with the best of intentions, it's stepping into ownership.
Yes.
Because you have to own it. And if you don't want to own it and you want the answers and you need that someone telling you how to do it, then, and I say this in the best way, maybe corporate America is the spot for you to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to, be that entrepreneur, build your own business, you've got to own it. You have to step out of your comfort zone and you have to trust that you're the answer.
Absolutely, Hathaway. You can say that again because not everyone is meant for business ownership.
Yeah.
And sometimes corporate America is the right place for them. And
exactly.
they can be very, very successful there. They can do well. The trade-off, of course, is the time. But everybody is not meant for it. You're right.
And it's not a bad thing. I think we get caught up, it's interesting. Right. I always say it's like, I hate the negative connotation around the word selfish. I think if someone tells you you're selfish, I'm like, good for you. Means you're making yourself a priority. Like be so, that you were able to say that. So I think it's really, just own what you want and, you know, be okay with it. Obviously with a name like Hathaway, I've already been a little bit unique to start with, you know, and it's just, and own it. For a while, I kind of tried to soften myself or, you know, not stand out in the room. You know, I was always the tall girl, that it's like, just own it and be okay with the fact when, you know, I deal with clients that are apprehensive about being visible or what if they don't buy from me or whatever that is if someone is going to criticize you, whatever that is that you're afraid of, they're not your ideal client.
That's right.
And that's just the basic way to say, don't take it personally. They're not your ideal client.
Yes.
And not everyone is everyone's ideal client. That's not a realistic expectation. So, you know, just be okay with the fact they're not your ideal client and move on to the next person.
Yeah. I love that. Just own it. I just love that. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I love your name, Hathaway.
Oh, thank you.
It is unique, and I just love saying it.
It was my mother's maiden name, so it's a family name in there. But yes, it did definitely make me be a little bit more unique right from the get-go.
Nice. So tell me about the ways that you incorporate fitness into a mindset transformation regimen for your clients.
Part of it thinking, for example, when it comes to a run. Like I had a run this morning. It was crazy humid and it didn't quite go as planned. It got completed, but it was much more challenging than I'd planned it to be. So when I think about that, like with my run, stopping isn't an option. I'm X amount of miles from the house. Like I have to get home somehow. You know, you gotta turn it around, figure it out, break it into those segments. So when I work with my clients that get that, whatever their choice of fitness is, it's realizing when we show up to a fitness class or the gym, you go to work out and you work out. You don't think about showing up at the gym, putting in 2 minutes and leaving.
Right.
You just don't think about it. You know, you've committed to doing it and you're going to do it. And sometimes it's interesting, just that basic of that commitment to do it with that follow through. So if you know you need to do a video, you need to prospect 15 people, whatever that is, particularly when we're entrepreneurs, we'll sometimes let ourselves off the hook. Like, oh, well, I reached out to 2 and then get on to the next task.
Right.
So it's really remembering of when you start a workout, you finish it. And then applying that to whatever your tasks are. And then obviously on the health and nutrition side, I believe overall wellness is the foundation for sustained success in all areas of our lives. Right. So as you know, I mean, when you're working out, you're sleeping better, you know, when your hydration's better, you know, you have a clearer mind. When you're eating better, you have more energy. So there's also that, you know, those results that I think are really important.
That's really, really good. And, you know, when you were saying that, Hathaway, I thought about, I took my first CrossFit class.
Good for you.
About a month ago. And all I could think about while I was in that class was, when is this going to be over? And what I really needed, thank you for that, Hathaway, because what I really needed to think about was, I've committed to doing this.
Yep.
Now let me finish it.
Yep.
And not worry about when it's going to be over. Needless to say, I have not been back to that CrossFit class.
Yeah. Well, CrossFit isn't for everyone, but that is a good takeaway.
Yes. But I may very well, I feel like I failed myself in that way. So I may go back and try that again, the CrossFit, just so that I can get the mental in practice on the mental endurance.
Well, and it's interesting too, when you say that of when it comes to a workout, CrossFit, whatever it is, it's just like a big goal. So this morning when I realized how challenging the run was going to be, I broke it down into segments in my mind and just said, take it one segment at a time, one step at a time. I didn't focus on what the final mileage was going to be. And the same thing with the class. Like I'll tell people, you know, in a cycling class, take it one song at a time. Because when you do that, then it's like, okay, when we get caught up in that big picture, it's like that overwhelm, it kicks in so quickly. And then it just, at some point, some of us are wired that we're just like, well, forget it. I'm just, you know, I'm going to stop. It's too much. Right. So it's just taking that. And even if it's a half an hour class, 15 minutes, break it into those segments. And what happens with that, I think I mentioned before, when every time I finished that segment this morning, I said out loud, great job. Because that's right into, it builds on the momentum. Great job. Congratulate yourself. And then guess what you're doing? You're already right into that next segment.
That's very good.
You don't stop and think about it. And I will do the same thing on a really busy day, for work, I'll actually add things to my calendar, whether it'll just be email follow-up or, whatever, even if it's laundry that needs to be done at some point in the day, because then I can see everything that needs to be done. And then even if it's a small task, when it's completed, I get that off my calendar. Great job. Right on to the next. So, you build that momentum with those smaller steps.
That's a huge nugget right there. I mean, I tell you, I keep learning new things. And I never do that. I'm always quick to say, I didn't get everything done on my list today, but never quick to say, great job.
Yep. Particularly with female entrepreneurs, we're wired, like we're perfectionists. That's in there somewhere for all of us.
Yeah.
So when you stop and it's like, and trust me, it's something I still struggle with, but give yourself permission to be like, great job, good job. Nice. It's like looking in the mirror and saying, I look good, opposed to what we tend to do of like, like it looked different in my head, like we're, and it's important. It really is, because I think what we negate is our mindset is our subconscious, and that's a really powerful thing. So it is working even when we're not aware of that. So when you have that positive, great job, congratulations, any of that, your mind is actually looking for solutions opposed to obstacles. If you sit here and just say, I don't know how I'm going to finish this class. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get the next 5 clients. Your mind is just hearing, I'm not going to get the next 5 clients. Nice. If you shift that to, I can do this. I've got this class. I can figure out how to get 5 clients. Your subconscious actually starts working with you to say, okay, how are we going to do this? What are the solutions instead of saying the obstacles in it?
Very nice. That's a very practical example. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, I saw that you had a 90-day, a 6-month, and a 12-month transformation programs. So tell us a little bit more about those programs and how they work.
Absolutely.
And, you talked about being virtual with a lot of these, because we can do these programs virtually. So tell us a little bit more about how they work.
Absolutely. So I work with all of my clients virtually. So I find twofold. One thing I can do, obviously Zoom, the majority we work over the phone. I've had clients talk about the fact that it's a lot easier to be completely honest when they don't feel like someone's, looking at them or, judging them. So I found that very beneficial. And again, means my client base can be wherever my ideal client is. And then for that, it is one-on-one coaching sessions 3 times a month. And then I have what I like to refer to as an implementation month. I think it's really key in coaching programs because I'm not telling you what to do. I'm showing you a better way and helping you see possibility. So it's really good to have that week essentially on your own where you can start implementing things, even though you'll be implementing as we go ahead, and see kind of what works. And then we can troubleshoot, from there.
Yep. Very nice. And so are you, in those programs, are you working on their fitness and their business, or just where you're meeting them wherever they are?
Exactly. So it's a little bit of both. Sometimes I have people that are really seasoned athletes that we're working more focused on business. And then obviously sometimes it's people that want a little combination of both. As you mentioned with my background, I have extensive work in branding, marketing, and all of those, as well as that health and fitness. So I can I touch on, and we have the same key points that we hit, but I touch on and customize it based on really where your need is. There's some clients where that branding, that might be a few sessions because we're really just starting up and trying to figure out, what's unique to them. And some people maybe mindset is where we just start and we don't do anything with business.
Oh, wow. Very nice. I love that. I love that. It's so customizable, and you're able to meet people exactly where they are. That in itself is unique as well.
Well, there's no one solution for anyone, and we evolve. And I typically find it's really figuring out like the why beneath the why. And typically when people will come to me, what they think is their problem or the area that they need to focus on isn't quite the area where they need to focus on. I usually always say like where the wheels fall off, something happened before the wheel actually fell off, that's where the problem is. So we really look at the big picture, because it's I want my clients to be able to take the lessons and practices and everything that they learned from me and apply it in all areas of their life and really integrate it into who they are, what their business is. And that really involves figuring out what makes sense to you, what resonates to you. As I just said, hustle, for example, doesn't resonate for me. So I need to get a sense of what works best. Some people like tough love. Some people like a different approach, so really figuring out how do you learn or best understand this and then working with them, which is also what I love about it, because it keeps everything's exciting, and interesting. And you see what your client takes the ball and runs with and what they're still a little bit apprehensive about implementing. And then you can kind of, you can do that little mindset reset or readdress like what's going on here to tweak it a little further.
Very nice. I really like that. So ladies, if you're listening, definitely check out Hathaway, because I love that approach.
Thank you.
A lot of times I will talk to some coaches that have their programs are very regimented. And so they can't help you at a certain point or at a certain level, but Hathaway is definitely able to meet you exactly where you are. So I love that. Well, so Hathaway, so I spoke to a woman recently, and one of her biggest areas one of her biggest problem areas was the fact that she felt as though she was not good enough to do a number of things.
Right.
She had this long list of things. So, that is a really simple, like, limiting belief that a lot of us carry. And so what are some simple things that women who feel like this, what they can do to help with their mindset and try to remove some of those limiting beliefs about not being good enough?
Well, part of it is we all have our story, and our story comes from, our parents, whoever raised us, our childhood, and we don't even realize how ingrained our experiences are in who we become and what we believe. So I always find it really important with clients to figure out, where is that story coming from? And then it sounds like a very basic question, but it's a really powerful one to say to them, what if that weren't true? And when you think about it, and they'll say, well, I don't know if it weren't true. And I'm like, no, really think about it. What if that weren't true? And then if that weren't true, then I would do the sales presentation. I would start my own company. I would all of that. So it's really taking a step back into that observer standpoint. So there's no emotion tied to it. You're essentially outside looking in. What if that weren't true? And then you kind of realize with some of these stories we tell ourselves, these limiting beliefs, we've created them, but we're also the only people that can change them.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying you flip a switch and you're like, okay, great, I'm good to go. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just figuring out a different way to look at it and acknowledging it is a limiting belief. It is not a fact. And sometimes it's changing your perspective around that, because your perspective is your belief. So it's kind of reframing what that is.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. So we're about to wrap up, Hathaway. I have one final question for you.
Of course.
So I always like to leave my audience in a better place by giving them that one actionable item that you can share with women so that they can go away from our show today and actually be able to use it immediately, something they can put into practice right now. What would that be for you?
3 affirmative statements. So all of those, you're going to want to start with I am. I am, big picture. So I am you as a whole person. Then you're going to do I am related to your business, and I am related to money and your earning potential.
Wow.
And these all are positive. So they all start I am, and you need to make sure it's something that makes sense to you. So for example, easiest way to do an example with the money one, if you say, I am a $60,000 per year earner. If that feels true to you, stay with that. If that feels too high, too low, you want to adjust it. So that comes back to owning it. But those are the 3 statements. So I am a successful businesswoman and mother, whatever you want that to be. Then it's, I am with business. I am an ideal client magnet. All positive things that are succinct. And then when you write, you're going to want to write those down, and then you repeat them in the morning, and you repeat them right before you go to bed.
Very nice.
Yeah. And I also use them too. If we all have those moments during the day where we get off, I always use those as a quick reset. Like, take a deep breath. We all have time to say those 3 things if you're in the car and you need a little boost. But that's why it's just important. Make them succinct, but they need to be real and believable for you.
Very nice. It's been a while since I've done affirmative statements. I remember I did it so much when I started my business. You know, when I first started business, I would chase that money monster. I mean, it was like, I just always felt like I was, you know, just living from client to client. It was just awful. It was just such an awful feeling. And one of the things that I used to, someone told me, just stop it. Just declare that I am never broke or worrying about money. And that was one of the most refreshing things for me, because I said that so much that it was true. And it never bothered me again after that. And so it's the same,
those positive affirmations, it's just like working out. You're essentially creating that muscle and you're shifting it so you do see things in a more positive light. So when you hang up the phone and the client might say no, you still think, I'm an ideal client magnet. So that just means that person wasn't my ideal client. And then you go on to the next.
So good. I'm going to start my affirmations again. I hadn't done those in so long, but they really work. You know?
And start them all as I am, and just keep them succinct. But the biggest key is make sure that they are really true for you.
Wonderful. This has been so good.
I know, I've enjoyed it so much.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Hathaway. I truly appreciate you and sharing with my audience today. I'm sure you have given them so much to take away. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it was such my pleasure. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
All right. You too. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This episode of the Bye Bye 9 to 5 podcast has ended, but it doesn't stop there. Be sure to subscribe for more strategies and advice to help you move from employee to escapreneur, to have the kind of success you have always dreamed of without sacrificing family or time. And don't forget to rate and review us so we can continue to bring you the best content possible to motivate and encourage you on this journey. See you on the next episode.